Welcome to this Thoughts on 2 Wound Space Marines, the Implication. Alright guys, it's happening. 2 Wound Space Marines as a standard is soon to be a reality. As a concept, it was something I felt strongly about on all levels of analysis. And 8-ish months ago, when I made my video advocating for it, I honestly thought it was a long shot. Jumping to the present, with it now a confirmed reality, I couldn't be more satisfied for all the non-Primaris Marines out there. But what is next? As it relates to my channel, when it comes to revisiting the thematic list build series for 9th edition, it really opens up a heap of options. Not just because the Firstborn Marines may be a crunchier choice, but more so my whole argument for 2 Wound Space Marines was that they feel more transhuman, and results in a more thematically accurate representation on the tabletop. Another point I mentioned in my video is how this paradigm relates to transports. Will the classic Space Marine vehicles roll over to the Primaris transport paradigm? The short of my point was, the decision for the Impulsor transport capacity of 6 didn't strike me as one based on how large Primaris Marines are. Rather, it seemed to me the rationale was that a Rhino equivalent vehicle would be insanely valuable if it could transport 20 wounds worth of Space Marine, which instead is reserved for the larger Repulsor transport. Plus, it seems a bit more acceptable as far as the relative scales of the models are concerned. And that brings us to the primary point of discussion for this video, and that is the implication. Allow me to explain. Now, I think it's fair to call the introduction of the Primaris Marines as rocky. Some may even claim clumsy. Beyond the visual difference in scale and quality of a new model versus an old one, the Primaris Marines were defined in lore as bigger, faster, stronger, and had superior war gear than the Marines we have had up to this point. They were the future. And on the tabletop it certainly felt that way. Primaris had more wounds, more attacks. They had more validity over the course of 8th edition, and the lore positioned upgrading to Primaris as an extremely risky thing unless your character was a special snowflake. And it caused quite a bit of controversy. Now at that time, with the way things were, about halfway into 8th edition when Primaris became the de facto superior alternative to the Firstborn Marines, the implication was more clear than ever that Firstborn Marines were being done with. It was a tough potential to grapple with, and I assumed when the time came the Rubicon Primaris would be retconned, or perhaps suddenly understood, and your old heroes could now ascend into the Primaris form. However, now I think that potential future is less likely. The implication provided by bringing all Space Marines to 2 wounds has spurred me to offer 2 points of discussion. 1, it has reduced the desire for Chaos Primaris on the tabletop, since the arbitrary gating of 2 wound Marines exclusive for Primaris has been absolved, making them a far less likely prospect, which I'm certain is the right direction. And 2, I believe the bulk of our Firstborn Loyalist Marines aren't going anywhere anytime soon. I think we can have the Loyalist and the Heretics as we have always sort of known them, and their newer iterations, creating a nice timeline through the ages. Before the Grim Darkness, we have the Space Marines of the Great Crusade. Then the Heresy takes place, pushing them in opposition. The Emperor is placed on the Golden Throne, and the Heretics retreat back to the Eye of Terror, and the Astartes advance their armor marks, both taking on their classic aesthetic. And then we have the result of these divergent paths. The return of the Primarch sees innovation return to the Adeptus Astartes in the Primaris template, and we have the Heretics become more attuned to the ruinous powers, with the Astartes becoming more demonic. I've mentioned this point before, how this framing creates nice foils for each other, and it does it far more effectively than Primaris with spikes or trim. It's for this reason I don't think Loyalist Firstborn Marines should be done away with, as they are, in my opinion, an essential link in this chain. Now I'll wrap up this video with a bit of a confession. The plans I had in mind for my narrative campaign previous to 9th edition and this announcement was to force the 2 wound paradigm for all the Marines through the justification of narrative play, as I thought that's how they should be. And in my analysis I thought that there were 2 elements holding Firstborn Marines back on the Loyalist side. One was being stuck to 1 wound, and the second was a lack of stratagem support. It's a bit baffling that Primaris Intercessors have 3 core codex stratagems to make use of, 4 if you count the veteran upgrade, while tacticals have none. So I cooked up a stratagem for that narrative scenario, which I think goes a long way towards making them valid. And I want to share it in the hopes that this concept comes true like the 2 Wound Marines did. I think tactical Marines should have one, or maybe multiple stratagems that will allow them to better harness their specialty, which is the ability to leverage different war gear within their squad. Call it tactical recourse, or maybe something cooler. It doesn't matter. What does matter is providing tactical Marines a way to either bump up the shots of their rapid-fire bolt guns, or a way to increase the reliability of their special and heavy weapon choices. But I think it's important for it to be an either-or situation. It's about leaning into the particular flexibility as the situation demands, and not having a single squad overperforming in all areas at the same time. Well, that's a wrap on this one. Thanks for watching. These were my thoughts on the new 2-wound standard for Space Marines, and its implications. So tell me, what do you guys think is in the future for loyalist Firstborn Marines? If you enjoyed this video, there is a like button. And if you want to help this channel grow, there is also a subscribe button. There is also a bell button and a share button, so press the buttons you want to press. Thanks again for watching, and I will hope to see you guys in the next one.